The Galactic Council chamber was a sight to behold. A colossal hall, floating in the void of space, encased in a shimmering bubble of translucent alloy. The ceiling displayed the infinite stars, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the Council's dominion over it. A massive circular holographic table dominated the center, displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with glowing points marking every planet under the Council's jurisdiction. Around the table sat the galaxy's most influential species, each a representative of their respective star empires. The insectoid Vrithians, their exoskeletons shimmering with iridescent hues, clicked their mandibles in a nervous chorus, displeased by the proceedings. Next to them were the tentacled sages of the Zrylok Confederacy, their bioluminescent tendrils floating in the air like drifting kelp in the ocean depths. Across the table, feathered philosophers from the Avrith Dominion perched on their custom-made chairs, their multicolored plumage shifting like waves of sunlight on water. Each delegate exuded an air of authority and power, confident in their species' superiority. Today's session was anything but routine. The Council was convened to address an unexpected problem: humans. The holographic map showed Zathos 9, a verdant planet situated at the crossroads of several influential trade routes. It was a jewel of a world, unclaimed until recent human colonization efforts had sparked outrage among the Council's members. An elder Zrylok delegate raised a tentacle, the bioluminescence in their appendages flickering with irritation. "This matter is simple," the sage intoned in a voice that resonated like the gentle hum of a tuning fork. "Humans are trespassers. They lack the history, the wisdom, the right to settle on a planet of such importance." The insectoid Vrithian representative, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the holographic map, clacked their mandibles in agreement. "Indeed, we cannot allow these primitive creatures to lay claim to Zathos 9. They multiply like spores and will consume everything in their path if left unchecked." The other delegates nodded, voices blending into a cacophony of agreement. Humanity was seen as a young, reckless species, a mere 100 years into their entry to the interstellar stage. The consensus was clear. Humans were an annoyance, not a threat. It was time to remind them of their place. At that moment, a single figure stood out among the swirling mass of alien forms, a lone human representative. Captain William Carter. He was dressed in a stark navy blue uniform, its sharp lines accentuating his disciplined form. The golden insignia on his chest, depicting the emblem of Earth's united fleet, glinted under the Council's artificial starlight. Carter's face was calm, a slight smile playing at the corners of his lips, his gaze sharp and calculating. He was an anomaly in this room, a single human amidst a sea of alien power players. The delegates turned their attention to him, and the atmosphere shifted from collective agreement to thinly veiled mockery. A delegate from the Avrith Dominion, a regal bird-like figure with feathers the color of a setting sun, tilted their head and let out a melodic trill of laughter. "Captain Carter," the Avrith cooed, "what makes your species believe it can hold claim to Zathos 9? A world like that surely is beyond the reach of your quaint technologies." A ripple of laughter followed, a chorus of alien amusement at humanity's perceived naivety. Carter stood silently, letting the sound wash over him without reaction. He clasped his hands behind his back, his posture as still and unyielding as a statue. It was as if he were merely observing, letting the delegates play out their charade. Finally, the laughter died down, and the chamber fell into a hushed silence. The next speaker was the one they had all been waiting for, General Calorak of the Kraxan Dominion. Calorak was a towering figure, his reptilian form covered in jagged scales the color of deep space. He wore ornate, ceremonial armor, each plate etched with symbols of his countless victories. He stepped forward, his talons clicking against the polished floor, and regarded Carter with a grin that showed rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Let us dispense with these pleasantries," Calorak growled, his voice deep and rumbling like distant thunder. "The Council has spoken. The decision is unanimous. Humanity must withdraw from Zathos 9 immediately. Should you refuse, we will consider it an act of aggression and respond accordingly." He leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the table. "Do not mistake our patience for weakness. Human, you have until the next rotation of this moon to comply, or face the full might of the Galactic Council's combined fleets." The room held its breath, waiting for Carter's reaction. Surely this ultimatum would make the human crumble. They expected fear, perhaps even a plea for mercy. Instead, they got something far more unsettling. Carter's smile widened, just slightly, but it wasn't a smile of amusement. It was the smile of a predator that had just seen its prey make a fatal mistake. He took a step forward, unhurried and deliberate, adjusting his uniform as he did. The quiet rustle of fabric was the only sound in the silent chamber. "You really shouldn't have done that," Carter said softly. The simplicity of his words struck like a thunderclap in the silence. The delegates looked at each other in confusion, their expressions ranging from bemusement to sudden unease. Calorak's confident smirk faltered, just for a moment, as he realized something was wrong. This was not the reaction he had expected. Carter's face was calm, but his eyes gleamed with a cold, hard light. He spoke again, his voice carrying a dangerous undertone that sent a chill through the room. "You see, we humans have a saying, when you corner a beast, you'd best be prepared for the consequences. You've mistaken our restraint for weakness. That was your first mistake. Your second was assuming we came here unprepared." He paused, letting his words sink in. The council chamber, once filled with the smug chatter of alien delegates, was now deathly quiet. Even Calorak, in all his arrogance, seemed taken aback, his reptilian eyes narrowing as if trying to decipher the threat lurking behind Carter's words. Carter took a deep breath and scanned the room, meeting the gaze of each delegate in turn. "You've decided to threaten us, to bully us into submission. But I assure you, that's not how this will end. You want us off Zathos 9? Fine. But understand this. If you push us, if you try to force our hand, you will regret it. Because when humanity is pushed to the edge, we don't just push back, we break the whole damn table." The threat was clear, unmistakable in its finality. Carter's voice, once calm and diplomatic, now held the steely edge of a commander who had faced far worse than the posturing of a council chamber. The room was silent. The only sound the faint hum of the holographic map still spinning slowly above the table. Perhaps they had pushed too far. Perhaps, just maybe, they had made a fatal miscalculation. Calorak, visibly rattled but trying to maintain his composure, straightened. "You speak boldly, human, but words are wind. We shall see if your actions live up to them." Carter gave a small nod, almost a bow of acknowledgement. "Oh, you will," he replied. "And when you do, remember this moment. Remember that you chose this path. And remember, I warned you." With that, he turned and left the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the silence, leaving the council in a state of stunned disbelief. It was the calm before the storm, and they all knew it. Purpose recap. This section establishes the core conflict and sets the tone for the story. It highlights the arrogance of the alien council and the quiet, dangerous resolve of the human diplomat, foreshadowing the dramatic shift in power dynamics that will follow. The tension is palpable, building anticipation for the retaliation to come. The scene shifts from the grandiose Galactic Council chamber to a starkly different setting. The Human Command Center aboard the UHS Resolute, a state-of-the-art starship orbiting the contested planet of Zathos 9. The interior of the command center is sleek and efficient, with muted blue lighting reflecting off rows of polished consoles. Holographic displays project complex readouts of alien fleet movements, communications traffic, and planetary scans. Despite the tense atmosphere, there's a palpable sense of focus among the crew, like a predator patiently waiting for its prey to make a mistake. Captain Carter strides into the room, his expression a mask of calm determination. The officers snap to attention, their eyes following him with a mixture of respect and anticipation. They've all seen the transmission from the council. They know what the ultimatum entails. But instead of fear, there's a glint of excitement in their eyes. This isn't the first time humanity has been underestimated by alien forces, and if Carter's entrance is any indication, it won't be the last. He takes his place at the center of the room, standing tall before the main command console. The display shows the current situation. The alien fleets surrounding Zathos 9, the Council's ships poised like vultures, waiting to strike. He presses a button, and the recording of General Calorak's ultimatum plays back for the entire crew to hear. "This is our situation," Carter announces, his voice steady and loud enough for everyone to hear. "The Council believes we're cornered, that we'll bend to their threats. They see us as a primitive species, unworthy of standing against them." A murmur runs through the room, a ripple of defiant chuckles and knowing smirks. The officers exchange glances, their confidence infectious. It's clear this isn't the response of a crew who believes they are about to lose. Rather, they look like a pack of wolves who have just spotted an overconfident lamb. Carter's lips curl into a smile as he nods approvingly at his officer's reaction. "Good," he says, "because it's time to show them who they're dealing with." "Lieutenant Perez," he calls, turning to his communications officer, a sharp-eyed woman with a steely resolve. "Sir," she replies, her fingers already hovering over her console, anticipating his command. "Activate Operation Eclipse." The room falls silent for a moment, the name of the operation sending a ripple of excitement through the crew. They all know what it means, a plan that has been in place for months, designed specifically for a situation like this, when humanity's hand would be forced. It's a bold maneuver, one that plays directly into their greatest strength, turning their opponent's arrogance against them. Lieutenant Perez grins, her fingers flying across the console. "Operation Eclipse is live, Captain." Within moments, the effects are felt across the entire planetary orbit. The scene cuts to the alien fleet stationed around Zathos 9. Sleek, shimmering ships of all shapes and sizes float in the void, their weapon systems primed, their shields glowing faintly in the darkness. Suddenly, the ship's displays flicker and go dark. Lights on the exterior of the vessels dim, and the faint hum of energy coursing through them fades away. On board the alien vessels, chaos erupts. Communications officers frantically tap at their consoles, trying to re-establish links with the Council headquarters. But there's nothing. It's as if the entire network has been severed in an instant. The screen shows static. Sensors are unresponsive. They're completely blind. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, confusion quickly turns to panic. Delegates shout over one another, their voices a mix of shock and disbelief. "What is happening?" demands an insectoid Vrithian, their mandibles clacking together anxiously. "We've lost contact with our ships." Calorak, the towering reptilian general, rises from his seat, his eyes blazing with fury. "This is an attack," he roars, slamming his clawed fist onto the table. "The humans have sabotaged our systems. I demand an immediate counterstrike." But before he can finish, a calm voice cuts through the chaos. It's Carter, still seated, his fingers steepled in front of him. He leans forward, the faintest hint of a smile on his lips. "Gentlemen, please," he says softly. "Let's not be hasty. This is just a demonstration, a preview of what we're capable of." The council chamber falls silent once more, the delegates staring at Carter in a mixture of shock and fear. Calorak's expression twists into a snarl. "You dare to threaten us? This is an act of war. Human." Carter's smile fades, replaced by a look of cold resolve. "No," he says evenly. "This is a warning. You see, your surveillance systems were surprisingly easy to disable. It seems your confidence blinded you to the possibility that we might have plans of our own. We've been preparing for this moment since the first whispers of your intentions reached us." The camera zooms in on Calorak's face, his scale shifting in a display of barely contained rage. "You think this minor disruption will save you? We will launch a full-scale invasion of Earth. Your species will be crushed beneath our fleets." Carter's eyes narrow, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "You think Earth is the prize? You truly have no idea what you're dealing with. Earth is not just a planet. It's a crucible. It forged us into what we are, into what you now face." He nods to Lieutenant Perez, who taps a final command into her console. The holographic display above the table changes, now showing a series of video feeds, footage captured from Earth's most inhospitable environments. The alien delegates watch in stunned silence as the screen fills with scenes of human soldiers moving through dense, rain-soaked jungles, their camouflage blending seamlessly with the foliage. The camera follows as they navigate the treacherous terrain with ease, evading predatory creatures and hostile elements. The scene shifts to a blinding snowstorm in a frozen tundra. Soldiers clad in thick, insulated gear push forward through gale-force winds and sub-zero temperatures. They move with purpose, setting up camps, maintaining their equipment with practiced efficiency, while the storm rages around them like a living, breathing entity. The final clip shows a unit marching across a field of volcanic rock, molten lava bubbling and hissing under their feet. The heat distorts the air, but the soldiers press on, unaffected. They work in perfect synchrony, as if the inferno itself is just another training exercise. The video feed cuts out, and the silence in the council chamber is deafening. The alien leaders are visibly shaken. For the first time, they see what Earth truly is: a world of extremes, a place where only the strongest survive, where every environment is a deadly challenge that humanity has mastered. Carter leans back, the smile returning to his face. You see, while you sat in your ivory towers, declaring us primitive, we were out there, enduring, adapting, thriving. You threatened to invade Earth? You wouldn't last a day. The camera lingers on Calorak's face, his earlier bravado now replaced with uncertainty. He opens his mouth to speak, but no words come out. The message is clear. The Council has severely underestimated the humans, and Carter knows it. Consider this your first and only warning, Carter says, rising to his feet. End your blockade of Zathos 9, and we can avoid further escalation. But if you choose to proceed, he pauses, letting the silence hang in the air like a knife's edge. Then you'll see just how far we're willing to go. With that, Carter turns and leaves the chamber, his footsteps echoing as the screen fades to black. Purpose recap. This section escalates the conflict, showcasing humanity's preparedness and their ability to outmaneuver the alien council. It serves as a turning point, where the council realizes they've underestimated Earth and its people. The display of human resilience and adaptability in Earth's harshest environments foreshadows the coming retaliation and sets the stage for a high-stakes confrontation. The scene opens on the bridge of the flagship of the Galactic Council's Navy, a colossal vessel surrounded by a shimmering fleet of warships. The Council has regained partial control of their systems after the blackout caused by Operation Eclipse. Calorak, the reptilian general, stands at the helm, his expression twisted in a mix of frustration and resolve. His scales glisten under the harsh lights, reflecting his growing impatience. He slams his clawed fist onto the console, issuing an order that reverberates throughout the fleet. Deploy all ships to blockade Earth's colonies, he commands. Cut off their trade routes, isolate them, and force their surrender. The order is relayed instantly, and dozens of ships peel off from the main fleet, dispersing to establish blockades around key human outposts. The alien fleet moves with precision, encircling human colonies across the sector. The Council believes they've finally cornered humanity, cutting off their supply lines and choking their trade. In their eyes, this is the final move in a game they believe they've already won. But humanity has prepared for this. In the shadows of deep space, hidden among the asteroid belts and the dark side of moons, small human strike teams lie in wait. Their ships are sleek and almost invisible against the backdrop of the void, equipped with advanced stealth technology that masks their signatures. The scene shifts to one of these strike teams, led by Commander Hayes, a seasoned veteran with a reputation for unconventional tactics. He issues orders in a low, calm voice, his eyes scanning the holomap that displays the positions of the alien fleets. We're not here to fight them head-on, Hayes reminds his team. We're here to bleed them dry. With a nod, the human ships engage their engines, gliding silently towards the alien supply convoys. The first strike is quick and surgical. A small flotilla of human ships ambushes a supply convoy in the middle of an asteroid field. The camera zooms in as human fighters dart between the asteroids, using the debris for cover, their movements almost predatory. They launch a barrage of precision strikes, disabling the convoy's engines and targeting its cargo holds. The alien escorts, caught off guard, attempt to regroup, but the humans are already gone, vanishing into the asteroid field like wraiths. The supply ships, crippled and adrift, become easy pickings for the next wave of human attackers. It's a hit-and-run operation, executed flawlessly. The scene shifts to another engagement, this time in a nebula where visibility is near zero. An alien warship, much larger and more heavily armed, drifts cautiously through the dense clouds of ionized gas. Without warning, a swarm of human drones emerges from the mist, weaving through the ship's defensive fire. They swarm the warship, targeting its vulnerable points with electromagnetic pulses. The ship's systems flicker and go dark, leaving it helpless as the drones disappear back into the nebula. The Council watches these reports in stunned silence. The footage plays on the holographic screens in the chamber, each strike a brutal reminder of humanity's tactical brilliance. The delegates, once confident in their overwhelming numbers, now argue amongst themselves. They hadn't expected this kind of resistance, this level of precision and ruthlessness. The insectoid Vrithian delegate clicks her mandibles in distress. "This isn't warfare as we know it," she hisses. "This is something else." Kalarak, now visibly agitated, slams his fist onto the table. "These attacks are illegal," he shouts, his voice echoing in the chamber. "This violates every interstellar law of combat. I demand an explanation." The camera cuts to Carter, who stands calmly at his place, unflinching in the face of the accusations. He steps forward, his posture relaxed, but his eyes cold and calculating. "You made this a war," he says, his voice carrying an edge of steel. "We're simply finishing it." Carter places a sleek, metallic data slate on the table, activating it with a flick of his fingers. The holographic display shifts to show a detailed timeline of human history, spanning centuries of conflict and survival. The council members lean in, their curiosity piqued despite themselves. "Let me show you something," Carter begins, his voice taking on a darker, more somber tone. The display zooms in on scenes of Earth's past, trenches of World War I, the desolate landscapes of World War II, the burning cities of the Great Plague, the riots during the Resource Wars, and the ashes of near-extinction events like the asteroid crisis. The images are raw, brutal, and unflinching. "We've faced annihilation time and time again," Carter continues. "Natural disasters, self-inflicted wars, near-total collapse of our ecosystems. And every single time, we fought back. We adapted. We survived." The camera pans across the faces of the alien delegates, their expressions shifting from skepticism to shock, and then to something akin to fear. They are witnessing, for the first time, the true scope of humanity's resilience, forged through centuries of struggle and hardship. "We're not like the rest of you," Carter says, his voice growing colder. "While you expanded peacefully, building your empires in comfort, we clawed our way out of the mud, fighting for every inch. You look at Earth and see a world of resources. We look at Earth and see a crucible that shaped us into warriors." Kalarak's eyes narrow, his confidence cracking under the weight of the revelation. He knows the Council has underestimated the humans, but he's unwilling to back down. Desperate to regain control of the situation, he plays his final, desperate card. He rises from his seat, towering over the other delegates, and activates a new projection. It's a schematic of a colossal weapon, a forbidden device, its purpose unmistakable. The screen shows simulations of its destructive power, capable of vaporizing entire planets. The Council members gasp, recoiling in horror. "This is your final warning, human," Kalarak declares, his voice tinged with madness. "Surrender now, or we will use this weapon against your homeworld. Earth will be nothing but dust and memories." The room erupts into chaos. Delegates shout in protest, their voices overlapping as they decry the use of such a weapon. It's a line no one was willing to cross, a violation of every treaty and law the Council had ever established. Even Kalarak's allies look uncomfortable, their expressions betraying their fear of what might come next. Carter's face hardens. He steps forward, meeting Calorak's gaze head-on. "You threaten us with extinction?" he asks quietly, his voice deadly calm. "You threaten the one thing that has driven us to conquer every challenge we've ever faced." He takes a deep breath, straightening to his full height. "You don't understand what you've done. You've pushed a species that has nothing left to lose. You've threatened the one thing we hold sacred, our home. You've declared total war." The room falls into a heavy silence, the weight of Carter's words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Calorak falters, realizing too late the gravity of his mistake. "Prepare yourselves," Carter says, turning on his heel to leave. "Because the humans you're about to face are the ones forged by centuries of war and survival. And we do not lose." The camera zooms out as Carter exits the chamber, leaving the council members in stunned silence, knowing that the escalation they initiated has set them on a collision course with the full wrath of humanity. Purpose recap. This section builds upon the tension, showcasing humanity's mastery of guerrilla tactics and their history of overcoming adversity. It escalates the conflict further, revealing the true extent of humanity's survival instincts while also highlighting the desperation of the alien council. The revelation of Calorak's forbidden weapon sets up the final showdown, pushing the moral conflict to its peak and foreshadowing a decisive, no-holds-barred confrontation. The scene opens in the Galactic Council chamber. The atmosphere is tense, almost suffocating. The alien delegates sit rigid in their seats, a mixture of fear and anticipation on their faces. At the head of the room, Calorak stands tall and imposing, radiating a sense of confidence as if he's already won. His reptilian eyes gleam with triumph, the corners of his mouth pulled into a self-satisfied smirk. He believes humanity has been backed into a corner and that his show of force with the forbidden weapon has broken their spirit. The camera shifts to Captain William Carter, who remains unperturbed, standing with his hands clasped behind his back. He appears almost disinterested, as if Calorak's threats are nothing more than a minor inconvenience. The contrast between the smug alien general and the calm, collected human diplomat is striking, highlighting the true power dynamic in the room. Calorak steps forward, his voice booming across the chamber. "It's over, human," he declares with a victorious sneer. "Surrender now, or I will unleash a weapon that will reduce your precious Earth to nothing but stardust. You have no choice." There's a pause, a heavy silence that fills the room. The alien delegates glance nervously at one another, waiting for Carter's response. The camera zooms in on Carter's face, capturing a small, almost imperceptible smile that forms at the edge of his lips. He steps forward slowly, his movements deliberate and unhurried. "You've made a fatal error," Carter begins, his voice steady and clear. He doesn't just address Calorak. He speaks to the entire council, making sure every representative is paying attention. "You assumed we fear you more than we love our own. You thought we would crumble under the weight of your threats, that we'd surrender the moment you waved your forbidden weapon in our faces." He lets his words hang in the air for a moment, allowing the impact to settle in. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he activates a holographic display in the center of the chamber. The screen flickers to life, showing a live video feed from the bridge of the Council's flagship, the pride of their navy. The camera zooms in on the feed, revealing human special operatives standing on the bridge, their weapons drawn. The alien crew members are restrained, their hands bound, while the humans hold firm control of the ship's systems. The leader of the strike team, a woman clad in black combat gear with a stern, determined expression, salutes the camera. "Commander Harper reporting in," she says. "The flagship is secure, awaiting further orders." The room erupts into chaos. Alien delegates leap to their feet, shouting in disbelief and panic. Calorak's face drains of color, his previous confidence evaporating in an instant. He stumbles back a step, his eyes wide with shock as he realizes the magnitude of what has happened. His fleet, his ultimate trump card, is now in the hands of the very species he sought to destroy. Carter watches the commotion unfold with a calm, almost bored expression. He lets the panic continue for a few seconds before raising a hand to silence the room. The noise dies down, replaced by a tense, oppressive silence. All eyes are on Carter now, waiting for his next move. "You thought this was a negotiation," Carter says quietly, his voice filled with a deadly seriousness. "You thought you could bully us into submission with threats of annihilation. But while you were busy making speeches and rattling your sabers, we were already on the move. We infiltrated your flagship, neutralized your crew, and now we control your most powerful asset." He steps closer to Calorak, who looks utterly defeated, his shoulders slumped and his eyes filled with fear. "You threatened to destroy our home," Carter continues, his voice rising. "But you have no idea what you've awakened. Humanity is not a species that bows to threats. We're the product of 1,000 battles, born on a world that has tried to kill us since the dawn of our existence." Carter pauses, looking around the room at the stunned faces of the alien delegates. "You want to fight?" he asks, his voice filled with a cold, unyielding resolve. "Then we'll give you one you'll never forget. But understand this. It will be your last." The camera pans across the chamber, capturing the reactions of the delegates. Some look away, unable to meet Carter's gaze. Others sit frozen, their expressions a mix of fear and respect. Calorak, once so confident, now appears small and broken. He knows he's lost, that his gambit has failed spectacularly. Desperate and humiliated, Calorak falls to his knees, lowering his head in a gesture of submission. "Please," he whispers, his voice barely audible. "Spare us." Carter doesn't respond immediately. He stands tall, looking down at the defeated alien general, the embodiment of humanity's strength and resolve. He lets the silence stretch on, making sure the weight of this moment is felt by every delegate in the room. Finally, he turns to address the council as a whole. "We did not seek this conflict," he says, his tone softer now, but still firm. "But we will not be bullied, subjugated, or erased. We have faced extinction countless times before and survived. If you choose to make us your enemy, know that we will fight with every ounce of our strength. And we will win." The delegates exchange looks, a silent agreement passing between them. One by one, they vote to withdraw their forces and seek a diplomatic resolution. The vote is unanimous. The war is over before it truly began. Carter watches the votes come in with a small, satisfied smile. He's won, not just the battle, but the war of perception. Humanity is no longer seen as a young, reckless species. They're recognized as equals, perhaps even as a force to be feared. As the session adjourns, Carter turns and walks towards the exit. The camera follows him, focusing on his back as he strides confidently out of the chamber. Just before he leaves, he glances back over his shoulder, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "I told you not to piss us off," he mutters under his breath. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with a sense of triumph and the unmistakable message: humanity should never be underestimated. Purpose recap. The final section delivers a climactic and satisfying conclusion. It showcases humanity's cunning and tactical brilliance, turning the tables on the alien council in a dramatic fashion. Carter's final speech emphasizes the core theme of the story: humanity's unbreakable spirit and resolve. The story ends on a high note, leaving viewers with a powerful and memorable message about the strength and resilience of the human race.